I wanna be with you everywhere. I wanna be with you everywhere. I wanna be with you everywhere. I wanna be with you Something's happening to me. My friends say I'm acting peculiarly.
What's up, people? Joe Winko here, your favorite Hawaiian guy, and right now I am standing right on the state line of Delaware. I honestly think Delaware is a very interesting state. I don't really know much about it though. However, I do know that Delaware is actually one of the smallest states in the USA, but it's not actually the smallest state. That title goes to Mr. Rhode Island. But Delaware actually is the second smallest state at 1,955 square miles, while Rhode Island's total landmass size is 1,034 square miles. Even though both of those states are really small, it would take me forever to ride my bike through both of them. Seriously. It'd be an interesting bike ride though. I remember back in elementary school, my classmates always used to tell me that if you were able to pick up Rhode Island and if you put it in Lake Michigan, it would sink. But that's not entirely true. If it was buoyant enough, it would float. But enough about Rhode Island. This video is about the lovely state of Delaware and how excited I am to be here. I do believe that Delaware is an absolutely lovely place. It's like a small state and everything. However, I just wouldn't want to live in Delaware just because it gets too cold during the winter. And as you all know, I have to live someplace warm. But also because I remember reading somewhere that Delaware has a really low elevation, and that if all the polar ice caps melted, Delaware might end up underwater. But no one knows whether that's actually true or not. You can't always trust those maps because they aren't always accurate. And I also believe that Delaware is also vulnerable to getting hit with hurricanes. But I highly doubt that even happens very often. Tropical storms maybe, but not full-blown hurricanes. Delaware is too far north and the waters are too cold. Hurricanes need warm water in order to strike and cause damage. And Interstate 95 actually does go through northern Delaware, and that's the interstate that I'm spiritually connected to. Those are major reasons why I'm so drawn to Delaware and why I'm spiritually connected to Delaware. And here's another thing you guys might find interesting. I'm actually standing right off of US Federal Highway Route 40, which is also known as the Main Street of the USA. Seriously, that's exactly what it said when I looked it up on Wikipedia. This is actually a major east to west horizontal highway which cuts across the country. However, it doesn't go all the way across the country. It starts in coastal New Jersey and it ends in Utah. Usually when a highway has a 0 at the end of it, like 10, 20, 30, or 40, or 90, they usually go across the whole entire country, but not always. Sometimes they just almost go all the way across the country. But Route 40 is only 2 states off of going all the way across the country. It is a pretty long road. So if you're ever road tripping to Utah, from New Jersey or Maryland or Delaware or any other state along this road and you don't want to take interstates, I would recommend that you take US Federal Route 40. That would be a very interesting trip because it actually goes through towns and everything, and you can actually stop at places without having to deal with exits and everything. But it does have stoplights along it, if you guys don't mind those at all. I certainly don't. But the traffic jams on interstates can be a pain in the neck sometimes, to put it lightly. There's also a really cool Welcome to Maryland sign that way. However, the reason why I'm not going over there to film a video by the Welcome to Maryland sign is because it's right in the middle of a median and there's no crosswalk at that median, and I don't want to break any of the jade walking laws or whatever they call those, and I also don't want to get splattered by a car either. I mean, I already risked that enough living in Florida, so that's the reason why I'm not standing there filming a video. But it is a very awesome looking sign. I think Maryland has a really cool flag. That's why I used it so much in the United States of Joe Winko and some of my Maryland cities I made there. I've honestly always been fascinated by Delaware, and this is definitely due to my autism mind. But a major reason why I've been fascinated with Delaware is because the way the state itself is shaped. It has like a curved boundary in the northern part of the state, and I never seen anything like that before in any country or any state that I've ever seen a map of. That's why it fascinated me so much. However, there is a very logical explanation for that curved boundary in the northern part of Delaware. And I'm going to show it to you guys right now.
My friends say I'm acting peculiarly. Come on, baby, we better make a start. You better make it soon before you break my heart. I wanna be with you everywhere. I wanna be with you everywhere.
Right now, I'm standing in the center of the town of Newcastle, Delaware. As we were driving around Newcastle, Delaware, I noticed that a lot of the buildings looked very colonial and very old school. Later on, the person who brought me here was reading online on his cell phone that a lot of the houses here were built in the 1600s. Delaware was actually one of the 13 colonies of the USA. You guys remember when I said that I was fascinated by how the state of Delaware has that circular shape in the northern boundary of it? Well, there's actually a reason why, and it is right behind me. Right now it's behind me. This building used to be the courthouse of Newcastle, Delaware, and it's actually a major historic site in the state of Delaware. It was actually built in year 1732. This is actually the new building that was rebuilt after the old one was destroyed in a fire a really long time ago. In 1963, it actually became a museum instead. Kind of like the old courthouse building in Inverness, Florida that I showed in my Citrus County video I did a while ago. I think it's a really cool building. I like the way it looks and everything. I didn't add it to the United States of Joe Winko. I'm not sure if I did any cities of Delaware for the United States of Joe Winko, but if I did, I'll make sure to add this building in. I should be able to download it from 3D Warehouse when I get the chance to. So getting back to the point of this video, you guys may be wondering, what does this building have to do with the circular boundary in northern Delaware? Well, I'll tell you that right now. It's actually because in 1862, James, who was the Duke of New York, wanted them to have a 12-mile circle around the Newcastle courthouse to be the boundary for the state of Delaware. I'm honestly not exactly sure why they wanted that. I did look it up on Wikipedia and I tried reading about it, but apparently all the other states were really angry about it and were contesting it over and over again. And there's an extremely long story explaining that, and I didn't really feel like reading the whole entire Wikipedia article right now. So that's the reason why I don't have much to say about it. But it is a really cool building, and I wanted to feature it in one of my YouTube videos and show it to you guys. I like it a lot. And I thought it was a really clever idea too, because you usually don't see any states that have a circular boundary like that. The only one I can think of is Delaware itself, none others. But I'm not too sure about the other countries of the world though. I focus on the 50 US states. Well, not even, the 48 contiguous US states. Anything you can take a Greyhound to without having to have a passport. Later on, when I get the chance to, I might do an episode of Joe Winko Talk explaining the history behind this building. As some of you guys may have realized by now, history isn't really a major subject that I excel in, honestly. I mean, with building cities and SimCity 4, I'm good at that, but don't really know much about history. I ain't ashamed, though. Who does? So my adventure to Delaware video would not be complete without showing you guys this. The Delaware River right behind me. Earlier, when I was doing my video up at the courthouse, one of the locals of Newcastle, Delaware, heard me recording my video. Well, how could you not? I'm loud enough to wake the dead. And they told me that Newcastle was actually one of the first towns in Delaware, and it was how the state of Delaware was founded, because the first settlers from Europe who came here actually came up the Delaware River, and this is where they first settled at. I think this river is really cool. It's gigantic too, really. Let me show you guys a closer look at it. Okay, so here's the Delaware River. As you guys can see, it's quite magnificent and huge also. I actually recall seeing like extremely large ships like that one right over there. Not sure how good you guys can see it, passing through here. And as I said earlier, this is how the European settlers made it to the Delaware area, by coming up through this river and settling here. And another thing, as you can see, it's obviously low tide right now. And I think it's very interesting how far back that water recedes. I'm not sure if I ever seen anything like that in Florida before. And you guys remember that local that I was talking about earlier? She actually told me some more facts about the state of Delaware that I didn't know at all. She told me that Delaware has 3 counties in it. That's one thing that I never looked up at all. I always thought all the states in the USA had like a whole bunch of counties in them. Like if they're really small, they just make the counties even smaller. But I didn't know a state had that low of a number of counties in it, and I thought that was interesting. Also, another really cool thing that she told me is that the state of Delaware was actually the first state to ratify the Constitution. I actually should have sworn that I remember reading about that back in elementary school in history class. But as I said earlier, I barely know much about history at all. It's funny because back when I was a little kid, I always thought that was boring, but nowadays I actually find it interesting. It looks like the waves are starting to pick up here too. My adoptive parents always would tell me to never live by a river and that it's not safe living by a river because rivers can flood really bad sometimes. But I'm not so sure about this one really. This river is gigantic, but the thing is, if it actually flooded, in order for it to cause damage to any of the structures built here, it would actually have to go pretty far inland. I'm very curious to how often that actually happens, because there's so many old houses here and they don't seem to show any signs of flood damage or anything like that. The land in this park is pretty flat though, but around the houses it seems to have a slightly higher elevation. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm assuming it would have to be like an extreme event in order for this neighborhood to actually flood, like a hurricane or something. But as I said earlier, Delaware is too far north and the waters are too cold for a major hurricane to strike. Like a Category 5, I highly doubt a Category 5 hurricane would ever hit Delaware. Tropical storm, maybe, but a Category 5, no. I did see some of the hurricane evacuation route signs as we were driving through here, but I highly doubt hurricanes happen very often in Delaware. Not like they do down in the Carolinas or in Florida. Most normal-minded people wouldn't worry about stuff like that, but because of my autism mind, I'm always paranoid about stuff like that, really. As you guys probably remember seeing in my No Beach at the Mississippi River episode of Joe Winko Talk, I mentioned that I always get really scared and have a very unsettling feeling whenever I look at pictures of floods that had happened. Those pictures honestly freak me out and they make me feel very uncomfortable. And I wouldn't want to live in a flood risk area either. Gosh. But it's not like I'm afraid of water or anything. I actually think this river is beautiful, and it's a very fun place to visit too. I think everyone should visit this park in Delaware. And everyone should visit the town in Newcastle too, because it's really cool and really old school. I'm actually standing in the middle of a park right now, in case you guys wanted to know. The park itself is actually called Battery Park, in case you guys are all wondering. It's huge too. It has a very peaceful atmosphere as well. I also almost lost my shirt at this park too. Yeah, I actually do wear shirts from time to time when I have to walk inside places that don't allow you to be shirtless at all. I was freaked out at first. This is one of the only flesh-colored shirts that I have. But luckily, I found it right away, so I still love this park. So that's basically it for my adventure video of exploring Delaware. What did you guys think of this video? And what do you think of the places I showed you guys? Do you live in Delaware? Have you ever lived in Delaware? And what do you think of Delaware? Have you ever visited Delaware? And do you want to visit Delaware? And how come? And what do you want to see in Delaware? And what did you think of this video? Those are all questions that you guys should answer in the comments. And let's get a conversation started. Because as I continuously say, that's the whole point of all my YouTube videos. So don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. So that's it. Peace out, people. Let's get a conversation started about Delaware. Some really awesome people just honked and waved at me too. This is a major total land mass size. While Rhode Island but Delaware actually is the second smallest state at 1,955 square miles. 1955. 40 years before I was born. Hit subscribe, and don't forget to like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. So that's it. Peace out, people. Was that good?